The silence in the house was suffocating, a thick fog that clung to every corner of the kitchen where Juliet sat, her hands wrapped around a cold mug of coffee. The old clock on the wall, a wedding gift from her late mother, ticked with a relentless rhythm, each second a quiet accusation. 40 years of marriage, a life built on trust, love, and shared dreams, now felt like a fragile house of cards teetering on the edge of collapse. Julian, her husband, had returned late from another of his business dinners, his face etched with exhaustion and something darker, guilt, perhaps, or the weight of a secret too heavy to carry. He tossed his jacket onto the sofa with a weariness that seemed rehearsed, loosened his tie as if escaping a noose, and collapsed into bed without a word or a shower. The faint scent of his cologne lingered, but it was tainted by a new, alien fragrance, a sweet, floral perfume that didn't belong to Juliet's familiar rosewater scent. It was an intrusion, a brazen confession of a life she didn't know he was living. As Julian's snores filled the house, a sound that once comforted her but now mocked her, Juliet moved through the living room with the quiet grace of a wife who had spent 40 decades perfecting the art of keeping a home. She gathered his scattered belongings, his jacket, his wallet, his cell phone, his old laptop. The phone screen glowed faintly, a new email notification casting a sinister light in the dim room. Juliet frowned. Julian had always dismissed technology, claiming, "Juliet, all this tech stuff is too complicated. I'd rather just make a call." But here was an email, a digital ghost from a hidden life. Her heart thudded with a mix of dread and curiosity as she opened it. The message was short, devastating. "You were incredible tonight, Dad." A red heart emoji followed, piercing her chest like a cold blade. Dad? The word echoed in her mind, a question that carried the weight of betrayal. Who was calling him that, and with such intimacy? Her thumb trembled as she swiped for more, but the email address was a meaningless jumble, offering no answers, only more questions. A shiver ran down her spine, not from the chill of the night, but from a bone-deep fear that her life was unraveling. She glanced toward the bedroom, where Julian slept peacefully, his face a stark contrast to the storm raging inside her. Quickly, she replaced the phone, her hands shaking so badly she nearly dropped it. She continued tidying, her movements mechanical as if her body was on autopilot while her mind screamed. In the laundry pile, she checked his pant pockets and found a crisp receipt from the steakhouse in San Antonio, dated that very night. San Antonio? He told her he was in Dallas for a meeting with partners. A bitter laugh escaped her lips. Julian hated driving to Dallas, but San Antonio held fond memories of his late mother. The receipt showed a party of two, an expensive bottle of Cabernet Sauvignon, the same wine he'd bought her for their 10th anniversary, and meals of filet and pasta. The memory of that anniversary, the candlelight, his proud smile as she celebrated opening her first bakery, now felt like a lie, a faded photograph in a scrapbook of deceit. With a trembling resolve, Juliet snapped photos of the receipt and email on her phone. She didn't want to believe it, but a wife's intuition, honed over 40 years, was a primal force. Something was wrong. Terribly wrong. In the garage, Julian's SUV still radiated warmth, the air thick with gasoline and that intrusive floral scent. Her flashlight swept the driver's seat. Nothing unusual, just loose change and an empty water bottle. But in the passenger side glove compartment, her fingers brushed against something plastic and slippery. She pulled out a tube of personal lubricant, its cap crusted with dried residue. Her heart stopped. They hadn't been intimate in years. Julian always blamed fatigue or age. So why this? The question was a hammer blow to her fragile reality. She replaced it carefully, wiped her hands raw with a napkin, and continued searching. Under the back seat, she found crumpled napkins soaked in that same floral perfume, a vulgar shout of infidelity in the quiet of her garage. She photographed everything, each image a piece of a puzzle she wasn't sure she wanted to solve. Back in the kitchen, Juliet sat at the table, her hands trembling as she stared at the photos. The evidence was mounting, a mountain of betrayal. She reopened Julian's phone, her heart pounding like a thief's. His messages were clean, work chats, nothing more. His inbox held only that one strange email. Too clean, too perfect, as if he'd scrubbed away every trace of his deception. Her rage hardened into a cold, unyielding stone, and a new emotion stirred, a need for truth, no matter the cost. She couldn't confront him yet. She needed undeniable proof. The next morning, as dawn painted the kitchen's soft light, Juliet was already awake. The images of the lubricant, the receipt, and the emails swirling in her mind like a venomous carousel. She made breakfast, fried eggs, toast, strong black coffee, the way Julian liked it, her hands busy, but her thoughts frantic. He came downstairs, hair disheveled, eyes groggy, and muttered about an important meeting. "I'll be home late," he said, avoiding her gaze. His lies were so practiced, so effortless, they made her blood run cold. She nodded, forcing a smile, and replied, "Be careful." The door closed, leaving her alone with a suspicion growing into a monstrous certainty. Washing the dishes, Juliet's mind raced. She couldn't sit idly inventing theories. She needed truth, hard evidence. She called Mrs. Miller, a friend who'd helped her start the bakery years ago. "Juliet, if you ever need it, I can give you Thomas's number. He's a private investigator, discreet and reliable," Mrs. Miller had once said. Now she needed him. Her voice trembled as she dialed. "Mrs. Miller, can you help me get in touch with Thomas? I need him." A pause, heavy with unspoken understanding, preceded Mrs. Miller's reply. "Juliet, what's going on? Did Julian do something?" Juliet sighed, her pride bruised. "I just need the truth." An hour later, a message from Thomas arrived. "Mrs. Roberts, meet me at noon at the downtown cafe. I'll help you." The words were a lifeline in a sea of deceit. At the cafe, with its worn wooden tables and the comforting aroma of roasted coffee, Juliet chose a secluded corner. Thomas arrived, a stocky man with philosophical eyes that seemed to see through her. She handed him a flash drive with the photos, the email, the receipt, the lubricant, and the napkins. "I think my husband is cheating on me," she said, the words tasting like ash. Thomas nodded, reviewing the images with an impassive face, jotting notes in a small notebook. "I'll start following Mr. Roberts this afternoon. Don't worry, I'll let you know as soon as possible." His compassion was subtle but genuine. "Thank you," she whispered, fighting tears. "I just want the truth." Walking through the crowded streets afterwards, she felt a loneliness she'd never known. 40 years of trust, now crumbling. Hiring a stranger to follow her husband felt like a betrayal of the life they'd built, but she had no choice. That night, in the bakery, surrounded by the soothing scent of yeast and flour, Juliet's phone vibrated. A message from Thomas. A photo of Julian, in his familiar light blue shirt, entering a restaurant holding hands with a woman. She zoomed in, and her heart stopped. It was Allison, her daughter-in-law, in a tight black dress, heavy makeup, and loose hair. They didn't look like in-laws, but like lovers, their bodies angled toward each other in a shared secret. More photos followed, Allison leaning toward Julian in a candlelit corner, his tender gaze a knife to her heart. She'd never seen him look at her like that, not even in their youth when she was a radiant girl from San Diego. A video arrived at 2 a.m., Allison whispering in Julian's ear, his laughter a stranger's sound. They left the restaurant, Julian opening the car door for her like a lover. She replayed it, each frame a stab to her soul. Allison, whom she treated like a daughter, teaching her to make the family's traditional flan. Julian, the man she'd given her life to. How could they... The next day, more evidence arrived. Photos of Julian and Allison leaving a law office, then entering a 4-star hotel. A video showed them on the hotel balcony, his arm around her waist, her head on his shoulder, a quick kiss sealing their betrayal. Thomas's message confirmed they'd rented a room for the night. Juliet saved everything to a portable hard drive, her hands on autopilot, her mind in chaos. Family gatherings flashed in her memory. Allison sitting far from Julian, acting distant, a performance for her benefit. Daniel, her son, had even joked, "Mom, Allison can't stand Dad." She'd believed it. Now it was clear. A masterful act. That night, Julian came home smelling of alcohol, claiming a difficult partner kept him late. Juliet nodded, her rage a silent fire, as he patted her shoulder and went to bed. His snores mocked her as she sat in the dark, plotting. A call from Thomas came as Julian slept. "I recorded their conversation in the hotel parking lot," he whispered. The audio file revealed Allison's cold ambition. "Dad, hurry up with that fake contract. I want that chain of stores. I want that old hag out of the house." Julian's confident reply, "Juliet doesn't know anything. She trusts me too much." They weren't just cheating. They were plotting to steal her bakery chain, her life's work. Juliet's hands trembled as she saved the audio, her rage now a blazing furnace. The next morning, Thomas sent photos of Julian and Allison in his car, poring over documents with a red pen. They were planning to use a notary contact to transfer her business. Juliet listened to the audio again. Allison's venomous old hag cut deep. She remembered teaching Allison to cook, hugging her like family. Now, it was all a lie. At the bakery, a customer's praise, "Juliet, your chain is expanding," felt hollow. Her smile masked a wreck inside. That night, at dinner, Julian mentioned signing important business papers, suggesting she review them. She knew he was testing her, trying to lure her into his scheme. "I'm tired," she said, her voice dry. "I'll look later." He nodded, oblivious to her growing resolve. After he stumbled to bed, drunk, his car keys gleamed on the nightstand, a siren's call to revenge. Juliet's heart pounded as she grabbed them and slipped into the garage. The SUV smelled of gasoline and that floral perfume. In the glove compartment, the lubricant tube, freshly used, confirmed their ongoing betrayal. In the kitchen, she washed her hands with lemon soap, scrubbing away the taint of their deceit. From the tool drawer, she took industrial superglue, the kind used to fix bakery chairs. Carefully, she filled the lubricant tube with glue, wiping the nozzle until it looked identical. A faint smile crossed her lips. This was justice, the first step. She returned the tube to the glove compartment, ensuring everything was untouched, and checked the trunk. An unused condom in the corner was another blow, but she photographed it, adding to her evidence. Back in the house, she replaced the keys and sat on the sofa, pretending to read. Her mind raced. Daniel, unaware of his wife's betrayal, the bakery, her life's work at risk. Julian woke for water, unsuspecting. "Still awake?" he mumbled. "Just reading," she replied, her voice steady. He returned to bed, snoring, unaware of her counterattack. At dawn, Juliet kneaded dough in the bakery, channeling her rage into each press. Over breakfast, she lied calmly. "I'm going to Nashville tomorrow, for a contract. I'll be late." Julian's eyes lit up with relief, confirming her suspicions. "I'll handle dinner," he said, taking her hand with feigned tenderness. She saw through him. He wanted her gone. That day, Julian left his phone on the table, a missed call from AT flashing. Allison Thomas, surely. He grabbed it hurriedly, mumbling, "I forgot it." Juliet's blood boiled. He wasn't even hiding it anymore. That night, she pretended to sleep early, citing her trip. At midnight, Julian slipped out of bed, phone in hand, thinking she was asleep. Hiding behind the living room curtain, Juliet overheard him. "Come over tomorrow. Juliet's out of town. We can relax." Allison's giggle confirmed their plan to use her home. Juliet's rage burned brighter. She retrieved Daniel's old recorder from college, hid it behind the bedroom bookshelf, and covered it with a wedding photo of the four of them. A bitter irony. The recorder was set to capture everything. At 5 a.m., Juliet set her final trap. In the kitchen, she tied a string to the stove's igniter, connected it to a coffee can by the window, and filled a skillet with oil. A pull would ignite a fire, producing thick smoke to alert the neighbors. She tested it. Smoke spiraled quickly, and reset it, leaving no trace. Pretending to leave for Nashville, she woke Julian. "I'm off to the bus station," she said. "Be careful," he mumbled, burying his face in the pillow. Instead of leaving, Juliet went to Mrs. Peterson's across the street, explaining she needed to watch her house. From Mrs. Peterson's window, with a clear view of her house, Juliet waited, coffee in hand, headphones connected to the recorder. At 10 a.m., a taxi pulled up. Allison, in a floral dress and sunglasses, hurried inside as Julian ushered her in.
Through the headphones, Juliet heard laughter, clinking glasses, and then the bed creaking. Allison's voice dripped contempt. "The old hag is gone, right?" Juliet's jaw clenched. Then Allison's scream, "We're stuck!" Julian's panicked growl followed. Juliet activated the smoke trap remotely. The stove ignited, black smoke billowing out the window. Mrs. Peterson gasped, "Juliet, your house!" Neighbors shouted, "Call the firefighters!" Mr. Miller dialed the fire department. In the headphones, Allison sobbed, "Do something!" Julian roared, "Shut up!" The superglue had worked, trapping them in their humiliation. A fire truck screeched to a stop, led by Daniel, Juliet's son, and the fire chief. "Get the equipment ready," he shouted, breaking down the door. Through the headphones, Juliet heard his stunned voice. "What is this?" A firefighter murmured, "Oh my God." Another laughed nervously, silenced by Daniel's sharp command. The smoke was controlled quickly, just an oil fire, but the real fire was in the bedroom. Neighbors gathered, whispering, "It's Julian and his daughter-in-law." Mrs. Peterson recorded the scene, Julian and Allison carried out on stretchers, wrapped in sheets, their faces contorted with pain and shame. The crowd's murmurs grew, disdain, mockery, pity for Juliet. At the hospital, Juliet maintained a facade of concern, swapping the skin ointment for mustard tubes. In the room, she placed them on the table as Julian stammered, "Juliet, I can explain." She walked out. Minutes later, screams erupted. Allison crying, "It burns!" Julian cursing. The hallway buzzed with whispers of the viral video. Daniel arrived with the evidence envelope and divorce papers. Juliet placed them before Julian and Allison. 40 years ends here, she said coldly. "Sign and disappear from our lives." Allison begged Daniel, who left without a word. Julian pleaded, but Juliet walked away, hugging Daniel in the hallway as he whispered, "Why them, Mom?" Weeks later, the bakery thrived, customers praising Juliet's strength. Daniel moved in, helping with the business, his laughter slowly returning. Juliet joined a cooking club, attended church, and walked with Mrs. Peterson, finding peace in small moments. The bakery, her life's work, was safe. Julian and Allison lost everything: their honor, their plan, their family. Juliet and Daniel, though scarred, had each other. As she kneaded dough, watching the bell ring with customers, Juliet knew she'd kept her dignity, her son, and her dream.